Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of Freelancing Fight Club. I'm Christine Ashton, a freelance graphic designer.
And I'm Jennifer Marsh, a freelance writer and marketing specialist.
Today, we're going to talk about some common mistakes that freelancers make and the steps that you can take to avoid them. I believe that forewarned is forearmed when it comes to running a business.
As we mentioned in episode 2, over the years, we've given lots of advice to freelancers who are just starting out. And there's some situations and problems that come up again and again. We see them so often. And we're going to get right into it with mistake number 1, which is not charging high enough prices for your work.
So, here's where you really need to understand the difference between being employed versus being self employed. When you're an employee, you get paid for a certain number of hours or days per week. Like if you're at a job 5 days a week, you're going to get paid for 40 hours, regardless of what you're spending your time on. So you're basically being paid to show up. Whereas when you're self employed, you can only bill for the time that you spend actually working for clients or when you deliver the project that you've been hired to do. And except in very rare cases, that's probably not going to work out to 40 hours per week.
When you're self employed, especially in the beginning, you'll spend a lot of time looking for clients, sending proposals, and doing interviews. You don't get paid for any of that time. You also don't get paid for stuff like responding to emails, bookkeeping, invoicing, or other admin work. And it can be an eye opener how much time in your day is eaten up by doing just these few simple tasks.
Yeah, I personally found that just trying to keep up to date with the software that I use can be incredibly time consuming. I use Adobe Creative Suite in my work, and it feels like they're coming out with a new version practically every week now. It's usually when I'm frantically trying to meet a deadline and I've got 2 hours left of my day, that's when the notification pops up on my screen and says, "We have a new version. Do you want to install it now?" And the answer to that is no, I don't have time for it. When you have to make time for that on your own schedule, not charge clients for it.
Yeah, you have to account for expenses when you're a freelancer, and these expenses are usually overlooked when you're working for an employer. You need to pay for your own equipment, your software, your marketing costs. You get no paid time off, any holiday pay, or sick pay.
So, taking all of these things into consideration, I think that a good rule of thumb is that you should be charging at least double the hourly rate that you would find acceptable if you had a quote unquote proper job. But many freelancers will tell you that you need to charge a lower rate, and in some cases, drastically lower, when you're starting out just to get your foot in the door and find clients. We've both seen this go horribly wrong for some new freelancers who try this as a strategy because they often end up attracting the worst kind of cheapskate demanding clients, and that's just not a good foundation on which to build a business. Also, if you're going to be using one or more of the freelancing websites like Upwork or Fiverr, you have to realize that these are global marketplaces. There are literally tens of thousands of freelancers who are willing to charge as little as $3 an hour. So trying to compete on price is basically going to be impossible, and I don't think you should even try to go down that road. But I know we have some differing opinions on this.
Yeah, I feel like you have to get your foot in the door. I agree. $3 an hour, you can't compete with something like that. If somebody is charging $3 an hour and a client is looking for the absolute cheapest freelancer, you will lose. But I also think when you're first starting out, if you have, in my case as a writer, no portfolio or a very short portfolio, you don't have a lot of experience, you can kind of attract a client with a reasonable price, probably middle of the road, maybe
What would you consider to be reasonable?
$40 an hour as a software developer. This was a very long time ago. These prices might be different. I started out, I think, at a fair price for my skill set.
Okay. Well, for me, when I started out, I just looked at the profiles of other freelancers who had about the same level of experience and skill that I did, and I priced myself about 15 to 20% lower. So it wasn't massively lower, and that worked out just fine for me. Mind you, when I started, there was a lot less competition. And after I'd done a few jobs, then I started gradually going up by $5 at a time. But I think it can be difficult if you do like your strategy of charging the same that you were getting at your real job. I mean, if it took you a month to find a client and then when you found one, you only got a week's worth of work, that's not really going to pay off. And also, if they become a repeat client, how do you suddenly go, well, actually, I only charged you a low rate because I was starting out and now I want to charge you 2 or 3 times more? They're not going to be very happy about that. They're going to think that you're trying to bait and switch them. So, did you run into that problem at all?
I haven't worked at that rate in a very, very long time, but traditionally, I did not increase my rates on old clients. If I think about now, I have one client on a very old, well, somewhat old rate, 2-year-old rate. Eventually, the clients would drop off on their own. So I didn't really have to, I didn't run into that problem. I don't know what I would do if I did. I would probably honor the rate for a long time.
Really? Okay.
I do understand what you're saying. If you only work for them for 6 months, you have a contract, now you want more money, that's kind of ridiculous. Um, but for me, my projects were, as you said, like a week long. And I will say you have a good point where I also thought I was going to make 40 hours a week.
So, how many hours did you typically work at first?
I felt that I could easily, very easily get 15 hours a week. And 20 hours was pretty much a good week. And then 25 to 30 was a very busy week. So that's when I started realizing I needed to charge a lot more than I was.
Right. Because you were making half of what you were at your previous job with no benefits and no holiday
Yeah.
pay. And yeah.
Yep.
So, if you had to do it again, would you do the same thing or do you still think it's a good strategy?
If I had to do it again, I would probably charge maybe 50 just to get my foot in the door, and you have to realize, like, you were doing the same thing you have always done, so you had something to say, "Well, I've been a graphics designer for this long, here's my portfolio." I was
Right.
going from software development to writing,
Right.
so I was building off of my software development knowledge, and I was offering something completely different, so I felt like I needed to charge less. If I had to do it again, I would maybe charge 50, but rapidly go up.
Right. Okay. Like I said, we were in different situations in life, and like you said, you had no portfolio, but I would even say that it's better to get a portfolio together and then try rather than do it the other way around. There are a lot of freelancers who just absolutely swear by you must take a job at a low cut just to get those few initial clients and get the ball rolling. And, who am I to tell people that they were wrong if they eventually succeeded? But you need to be aware that it can go really wrong. And of course, the other thing is that a good client is going to look at your $30 an hour rate and see other people charging 50 and think, well, you have $50 people must be better than this $30 person because people think more expensive things are better.
I agree, I agree. These mistakes that we're listing, a lot of them I did myself, so I know they're mistakes because I made these mistakes. But, yeah, I feel like there is the perception that you're very, very good by being high priced. I agree, 100%, but I didn't know that back then. I know that now. I did not know that back then.
But you're still advocating starting at less.
I think because in my situation, yes, if you have like I've seen some freelancers, they have really great skills. I feel like those people are a different story. They should charge much more. But for somebody like me trying to get my foot in the door in a completely different area of business,
Right.
I think I needed to, yes.
But I mean, that sort of does agree with what I said about comparing like with like. I was comparing myself to other freelancers who are at the same level. If
Yes.
you're a beginner, you're not going to be able to charge intermediate or expert levels. So it's about being realistic about what the market will bear as well.
Again, I thought I would work 40 hours a week. That was a mistake. But
Mhm.
again, I feel like if I had no portfolio, it was a way to get my foot in the door.
Well, it worked out for you and you can't argue with success. So I won't. I mean, it's freelancing fight club. It doesn't mean we have to fight with each other.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Moving on to mistake number two, which we already sort of touched upon. Jumping into freelancing with no preparation or research, I think is a very, very big mistake. I did about 6 months of preparation, which might be a little over the top compared to what most people do, but I am a person who likes to break things down into manageable steps and really plan. I'm just a very cautious person. So this is what worked for me. I took copywriting and marketing courses at night school to help me prepare for doing the sales side of running a business. I also went as far as to write up a formal business plan and asked a few friends of mine who had experience to read it over and give me advice. And then it was just doing lots and lots of reading about how to start a small business. I knew that I wanted to build a personal brand. So I spent a lot of time coming up with a name, and I registered that properly as a business in my province in Canada where I was living at the time. I registered the domain name. I designed a logo for myself. I got a website going. You don't necessarily have to do all these things. And there are some people who do just jump right in. But I think, the more preparation that you can do, the better, honestly.
I love that. I feel like this is why you've been in the business for so long. But I'm going to own up to I just typed in how do I make money online on Google. And I did think about it. I researched writing in particular, mainly not to see if it was something where you could make money. Was it gonna be something where I was only gonna make $100 a week and then that's all I could expect? Or could you actually make a living writing without being a journalist working for one of these big newspapers? That's what I did. I did look into that. I read a lot of forums. I read people's experiences and I kind of jumped right in. And then again, I feel like do what I say, not what I did, because I think your way is way better. I did have a job at the time when I was researching, so I had no pressure to make money right away. So I would find people who were making money in the writing field and I looked at how much they were making, and in my head, I thought, I can do this. I can do this too. And I read a lot of personal experiences, but I didn't take courses or read books.
Okay, but at least you did know what service you wanted to offer and you did some research as to whether it was a viable plan. Whereas, we've seen people say, I want to be a freelancer. What skills should I offer? They're starting, or they're trying to start from absolute zero. And that's not a good idea. At the very least, you need to know what you're going to offer, whether there's a market for your services, and research your competition to see what kind of rates you can expect.
Yes, I did all that, and I think you should be probably a little more thorough than I was back in the day. This was years ago. So I think today's market is a lot more competition, a lot more cutthroat, a lot more saturated. So I think the best thing to do is do a lot of research into what you want to do, capitalize on what you are good at, decide what you want to do, and then try to find a unique thing that you can offer that your competition doesn't offer. You have to decide how you're going to approach the market, and that would take a lot of preparation, a lot more than I did.
The key to your success is that you were leveraging your experience. You did have software development experience and you wanted to move into writing, but you had an area of expertise that you could write about. So that was what made the difference for you.
Yes, I had the background of software development and IT, and I wanted to write. And once I figured out that I could offer something that nobody else could offer, that's when I figured out, oh, I could actually make money at this. And I kind of took it from there.
So it does require a lot of thought and effort in the beginning just to figure out whether you have a service that's even marketable.
Yes, I felt like you have to ensure that you aren't just another drop in the sea, that you can offer something unique, and that's what takes a lot of preparation.
It's not about just what you want to do, it's whether anyone wants to pay you to do it.
Yeah, yeah, you have to convince somebody that what you think is your genius offering is actually something that they want to pay for.
That will make money for them, most importantly.
Yes, the way to make money in freelancing is make other people money.
hmm And that's where the sales skills come in.
Yes, I agree. And knowing what will make that client money.
Exactly.
And also, in terms of being prepared, we should also stress that if you want to try out one of the freelancing websites like Upwork or Fiverr to find clients, It's especially important to read their terms of service and all of the help material that they provide so that you understand how everything works. Otherwise, you could end up wasting your money and time, or even have your account suspended if you accidentally do something wrong.
Absolutely. But having said all of this, there's only so much planning and preparation that you can do. And if you've never freelanced before, there's still going to be a learning curve, and you're probably not going to find instant success. Which brings us to mistake number three, which is giving up too easily.
Yes, we've seen freelancers say things like, I started freelancing a week ago and I've sent 3 proposals. Why aren't I getting any clients? Like they're already frustrated and ready to give up only after a few days. So you need to keep your expectations realistic and not get discouraged. Personally, I probably sent 50 proposals before I actually got my first job.
Yeah, I think when I first started using the freelancing websites, it took me about a month of steadily sending proposals before I landed my first client. And I was starting to get frustrated. And that was at a time when there was less competition. And also, it didn't cost money to send proposals. I'm saying don't give up too easily, but I'm not sure if I would have given up easily if it had taken as long as it does now.
Yeah, I think what motivated me was I just didn't want to go back to corporate and I was determined to make money somehow. I was going to do it. I didn't care. I was going to do it. I didn't have a fallback plan, so that probably made it even more important that I figured it out. I feel like you have to give yourself at least 6 months to see how it goes.
Also, to keep yourself motivated, it can help to join an online freelancing community. We keep talking about Reddit. There's a sub for Upwork, there's a sub for freelancers. There are various freelancing groups on Facebook. You could also find networking groups for small businesses, sometimes in person in most cities, or maybe you know friends who are freelancers or trying to become freelancers. So, discussing your problems with them can help you get some support and stay on track, knowing that you're not alone and you're not the only person struggling. And like I said, we're going to give you a few links in the comments. So check those out.
Yes, I one thing I did do is I learned to be a member, a frequent member of various different freelancing forums, Reddit subs. I've actually met freelancers in real life that I've met from Elance. It does really help when somebody else can commiserate with your freelancing pain.
And also to compare yourself to where other people are at, because some people will say that they've sent hundreds of proposals for years. I don't necessarily think that's a good idea, but it really helps you put things in perspective to know how hard it is for other people as well. You can learn a lot in these communities too. In general, it's just important to be patient with the process, be patient with yourself, keep being willing to pivot. Like if plan A doesn't work, have a plan B and a plan C ready to go. Keep learning, keep trying to improve, keep trying different strategies until you figure it out. And we're going to start getting into some more tips for finding clients more specifically in the very next episode. So keep listening to find out more about that. So, moving on, mistake number four is agreeing to a project without vetting the client. So, now you've sent some proposals, maybe you've done some social media marketing or cold calling, and you're starting to get some responses. So, that could be really exciting when you get your first message from a potential client, especially if you've been trying for weeks or months. You might be tempted to just jump right in and say yes before they have a chance to change their minds. But not all clients are going to be people that you'll want to work with.
And unfortunately, one thing that plagues the freelancing market is scams. You have to watch out for scams, especially if you're using freelancing websites to look for clients, because scammers love to target new people, people desperate for money, people who just want to get their first job.
The golden rule is if something sounds too good to be true, it is. And you won't necessarily be able to figure out every scam from the start. Some of them sound legit and you think that you're going to be hired and then you realize it's a scam and you're going to feel pretty stupid and also pretty angry. Just know that it happens to everyone who's starting out. As you get further along in your career, you won't be targeted as much.
But even if something isn't an out and out scam, not all clients are a good fit. I personally avoid clients that seem a little too aggressive. I avoid clients that tell me my work is easy. The big one for me, the big one that I get hit up with is, "Hey, this is a long-term job, work for cheaper." That is usually a scam to get you to work for cheaper. Those types of things. I'm a little more risky as long as I feel like I can handle almost any client. I know you have a lot more filters than I do.
I am so overly cautious. I'm sure I've filtered out some clients who would have been perfectly fine, but I'm just a very much a better safe than sorry kind of person.
Well, I've had a lot more disputes, which we can talk about in a
Later. Oh,
later episode. But my goal is always like, oh, I can handle this client. They can be difficult. I'll make a little bit of money. I'll handle them. And sometimes that doesn't always work out. So, one of these days, on one episode, we could talk about disputes and when clients aren't happy. But you have far fewer instances of that. So, your filters are probably smarter than mine.
yeah, I've had no disputes whatsoever,
Oh,
ever.
wow.
I've
Wow.
had 2 clients total in 27 years who didn't pay me, but one died, so I can forgive him. There was only one who maliciously didn't pay me, and there's some who were difficult in terms of just asking for a lot of revisions, but no one has ever been abusive or done anything really terrible, so, yeah, the filters are working and have been from day one, really. I just always I don't know, it's hard to articulate. I just sort of look for people that I have a rapport with, and I know you don't like to do on-camera interviews, but I find it really helps when you can see someone's face, and it's easier to form a relationship right off the bat, I feel.
I agree. I feel like one of the hard parts about freelancing is that you can lose a client just because you don't really have a rapport with them. It's just through
Mhm.
text. So I do think having a voice conversation puts a little personalized relationship on the deal, and it also helps you filter out clients because some clients, their bad personality comes out
Mhm.
in a phone conversation.
Yeah, I've turned people down just because I didn't like them. Keep in mind that it's not the same process as when you go for a job interview for a regular full-time job. You're interviewing the client, they're not just the one interviewing you. You approach it as an equal, and you figure out whether they're someone you ought to work with because then the project is gonna go more smoothly.
So, not every opportunity will be right for you. And an important part of becoming successful is knowing when to say no.
Absolutely. This brings us to mistake number 5, agreeing to a project without scoping it properly. Now, every freelancer sooner or later runs into the problem of scope creep. This is when clients try to add more features or services that you didn't initially agree to, or when they try to get you to do lots and lots of revisions for no additional cost. Again, new freelancers are especially likely to fall into this trap in their enthusiasm to agree to whatever a client wants them to do without stopping to think things through or get detailed information. And I've seen new freelancers who will even put in their proposals or their profile overview that they'll do unlimited revisions until clients are happy. And let me tell you, I've had clients do multiple rounds of revisions. One client asked for 100 rounds of revisions over a 1 year period. And while this is rare, don't assume that it can't happen to you.
Yeah, I've had scope creep where people ask for multiple rounds of revisions, but I've also pushed back on things like that. I feel like a lot of freelancers are too afraid to push back.
And it's really about striking the right balance. You want your clients to be happy, but at the same time, you don't want them to take advantage of you so that you end up doing a lot of extra work for free. So, really, the best way to just avoid it from the very outset, ask questions, get detailed answers up front so that you're on the same page. Is I have a basic template that I list all the common questions that I need to ask, and it's in a fillable PDF form that's easy for them to fill out. So that then they can't come back and say they didn't know that something wasn't included because they're the ones who filled out the form.
If you've had any customer service experience, that really helps. You need to remain polite and professional, but firm. It's often just a simple matter of saying, yes, I'd be happy to take care of this extra work or do additional rounds of revisions. It'll cost X amount. And a lot of times it works out just fine.
In a future episode, we're going to focus more on how to deal with, shall we say, challenging quote unquote clients. So if that's a topic that you'd like to learn more about, follow us and watch out for that. But for now, we hope that this quick list of potential mistakes will help you know what to look out for when you're getting started as a freelancer.
If you have any questions or issues that you'd like us to address in the future, please use the comments section because we do welcome your feedback. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.